Hey guys, welcome to today's episode. Today we are meeting with Ronnie Daniel. Ronnie is going to be sharing with us some of the insights about his company, what he's built, and how it helps individuals around him. Ronnie, as I understand, you're the Executive Director of Children's First Education Fund. Could you tell us a little bit about what is the Children's First Education Fund?
Yeah, thanks for asking. So Children First Education Fund is a nonprofit in Utah. We are the administrator of a program that the state legislature created back in 2019 called the Carson Smith Opportunity Scholarship Program. And this is a program where we can provide scholarships to children in Utah that are in ages kindergarten through grade 12. And they can use the scholarships outside of public school to help meet their special needs in education. So it gives them education choice. They can use the scholarships to go to private school, pay tuition there, or they can use it to be homeschooled. And so we are the administrator of the program. We receive applications from all of the students. We award the scholarship amounts to the families. Then we monitor and manage that so that the families are getting the best bang for their buck wherever they choose to for their education choice for their children. And then we also, on the other side of the equation, we have to raise money in order to give scholarships away. So we raise funds through regular donors, individuals, and companies who like to contribute to our program. And the state legislature, as I said, this program made an incredible benefit for our donors, which allows us to give our donors a 100% state income tax credit for their donation, which means if you owed $5,000 in state income tax as an individual, instead of sending that check to the state of Utah, you can donate that to Children First Education Fund and zero out your state tax liability. So it's a pretty awesome benefit. We're the only nonprofit in Utah that can offer our donors this benefit.
Man, that's amazing. And what allows that to be possible at that 100%?
Yeah, it's really all based upon the state legislation. And so Utah is about one of 22 states in the country that has a program like this to help provide kids with special needs this type of benefit. Many other states have a tax credit benefit, but we're only one of about 3 states that gives a 100% state tax credit. Other states are a certain percentage of that. So if you're a Utah taxpayer and you have an aversion of sending your tax dollars to the government, you want to relieve it to something that will do some great, this is a great option for you.
Yeah. So explain to us just a little bit on what is the benefit of, and why is the focus on individuals in the private area instead of in the public schools?
Yeah, good question. So in Utah, there's about 86,000 students that have special needs, and most of them are in public school, and most of them are getting a quality education in public school. But we know that there are some kids on the fringes that just aren't having their needs met well in a public school classroom. And so those are the children we focus on primarily. Out of those 86,000 students, we have around 800 kids on scholarship. So we're by far not serving the majority of those kids. In fact, I'm always surprised to see that the group of people who refer the students to us the most are public school special education teachers, because they just know which kids might benefit from either going to a specialized private school or to be homeschooled by their parents.
Yeah. Do you have any stories that you could share with us of some of the individuals that you have seen go through the program, and kind of what were the issues that they were facing in the public school area, and what benefits did they receive once they were able to get the grants to go into private?
Yeah, so I'll share a couple stories. One is a story of a family. The child is 8 years old. He has cerebral palsy and in a wheelchair, has difficulty speaking. Very intelligent. He learns really well, but in public school, he kind of got put in the corner, and he had an aide that worked with him sometimes, but really didn't have a lot of interaction with the other kids. The teacher, as you can imagine, has a classroom of 30 plus kids and has to give their attention to the majority of the kids. And so when this child's mom found out about our program, she applied, received a scholarship. And in this case, the mom decided to homeschool because that allowed her as a homeschool mom to get certain therapies. The scholarship will pay for therapies that child needed, help him have tutors that would come and work with him one-on-one and help him in meeting his educational needs. And he's thriving now. He's just doing incredible, progress in his education. He's grade level now, and he's just doing really well in his work. So that's the story of a homeschool family that this worked out really well for.
That's amazing.
Out of all of we work with about 82 different private schools in Utah, and we have the traditional private schools, like all the Catholic schools are part of our program. But there's about 18 Catholic schools, and what I've learned is there's about 20 private school programs in Utah that focus strictly on autism.
Mm.
We have a number of kids in our program that have autism, and what they found is that they aren't really effective in public school because, again, like I talked about before, in a classroom of 30 kids, they really aren't able to spend the time with that one individual child that has autism, has needs unique to what the other children have. And so families are able to take their children out of public school, enroll them in one of these special autism schools that have classroom size of 8 to 10 kids, and
Yeah.
almost one-on-one teachers that can really help those kids. And the reason there's an autism spectrum is that they're, depending on each individual child, they could be anywhere on that spectrum. And so they all have unique needs, and these schools are able to very much tailor education into what those individual children need. And so it's just been really great to see those kids get the resources that they need to meet their education.
That's awesome. And so when people contribute, what amount of that contribution goes towards, running a nonprofit versus what goes towards actually helping the students?
Yeah, because this was set up by the state legislature, there's actually a mandate in the law that says that we have to give 92% of all the funds we raise away in scholarships.
Oh,
And so
yeah.
we're required to, and while I don't love the exercise, we have to go through a state audit every year where they validate that and verify that we're giving away all the funds that we're required to. And so we only have 8% of the funds we raise that we can use for marketing, for administration, for helping to get the word out about this program. That's why I love doing things like this on the podcast, so we can get the word out to a lot of people.
Yeah, get the word out. So for those individuals who are interested, I mean, obviously it's a wonderful opportunity to be able to help these individuals, get the care and the education that they need. Because like you said, a lot of times they get put in the corner of the classroom, and it's not the teacher's fault. It's just they're trying to take care of all these other individuals, and to allow them to have that kind of private ability is amazing. How can people contribute to it, and kind of what amounts are helpful?
Yeah. So let me maybe start by saying that the scholarships that we award, and these are all determined by the legislation, it's determining specific amounts that we can give. And we award the funds based upon where a family falls on the federal poverty level. So 185% of the federal poverty level, that's the same as the free lunch level that people are aware of. And so if the family's below that free lunch level, then for this school year we're currently in, the scholarship was $11,235. If they're above that level, per student. Yeah.
Okay.
If they're above that level, the scholarship is $8,988. And so it's a little bit less if they're above the federal poverty level. But we compare that to right now in the Utah state school system, the average amount that is spent on a child with special needs in Utah is $17,000. So it's a win-win for the state. The state spends less money per person than they would. The children are getting their needs met in a much better way than they would be in public school. And the donors win because they can get 100% tax credit for their donation. So it's very simple to donate. You just go to our website, which is cfe-fund.org, and click on the Donate Now button, and you will just record your donation there. Donors can make a payment by check, by credit card, or by ACH payment. And when they do that, then we send them a tax credit certificate, and it outlines that 100% of their donation can be used for their tax credit. And then they don't send that form in with their tax paperwork, but they use that to verify that they received the tax credit, and then they record that on the appropriate line on their tax form. And in the 4 years we've been doing this program, we've never had one person get questioned by the state tax commission about making the donation. It's a pretty simple process to do that.
Yeah. Now, what's kind of a typical donation amount, or is kind of any level of donation helpful?
Yeah, any level. So this past year, 2024, we had donations of as little as $50 all the way up to donations of $2.2 million. And so, it really doesn't matter. It just depends on what your state tax liability is that we donate. In fact, I love to tell people who are considering donating to us that, a lot of times I hear, we have our favorite charity. We want to continue to support that. And I say, absolutely, continue to do that. I don't want your charitable dollars. Keep supporting your favorite charities. All I would like you to do is look at what your tax liability is, and instead of sending that to the state of Utah, direct that to Children First Education Fund. And so
That's awesome.
in the state of Utah right now, the state tax liability is 4.65% of your adjusted gross income. So if you were making $100,000 a year, I'll just use that as an example, then your tax liability would be $4,650. And so that's the amount that you could donate and zero out your state tax liability.
Yeah, and you're going to have to pay it anyways, right? So just kind of redirecting it.
It's a win-win for donors, is that this is money you're already paying. It's just simply redirecting it to a cause that's helping kids with special needs. And so if you're a company and you made $10 million in a year, then you could take 4.65% of that and send that in. And the great thing for companies is that, you're donating that to a charity helping special needs kids. You can use that as to help market your company and help people to feel good about what your company is doing in the community. And by saying we're donating nearly 5% of our revenue to help kids with special needs. And in reality, you're making that donation, but it's not costing you anything because that's money that the company would be sending to the state in tax anyway.
So help me understand a little bit, how does it work with the companies? Because typically those type of tax deductions are limited to the individual and on their personal income.
Yeah, so companies can make that they can claim the same credit on a corporate income tax statement as an individual can. So it's good at either place. A credit is a credit.
Any specific type of companies or that it's limited to?
Any company can contribute that has a tax liability. We have received some clarification from the State Tax Commission. I have gotten some resistance a little bit from companies that are referred to as pass-through entities. And so this might be an S-Corp or an LLC that has some shareholders, and the company itself doesn't pay taxes, but they pass those taxes on to the shareholders. The Utah State Tax Commission has clarified that just like the taxes get passed on to the shareholders, the tax credit can get passed on to the shareholders. So the entity, the company, can make the donation, receive the tax credit, and then pass the percentage of that onto the shareholders, just like they would the tax.
Oh, that's amazing.
It works out great for them as well.
Yeah, that's great. So when individuals donate, you put together the money in probably, pools of funds into multiple grants. When the grant goes out to this individual, is it just the monetary part they get, or are you also helping them with connections and things like that towards the resources?
Yeah, so a little bit of both. So we first and foremost, we don't just send a check to the families and say, go have fun with the money. We're, again, required by law to manage that. And so if the children are going to a private school, we pay the tuition on behalf of the student directly to the school. So it's done pretty automatically. For those families that are homeschooled, the state law is very specific and has some pretty rigid guidelines on how those funds can be used. It has to be done for specifically educational intent for those families. And so we do have a list of providers that we've cleared, and we know that there are bona fide providers. And so families can use those providers, and as long as they're been cleared by us, they can use those for whatever it might be, whether that's providing, buying educational materials or curriculum or therapeutic type of resources that they might need.
Okay, cool. So you provide a lot of the resources to help ensure that grant money goes towards, actually benefiting the individual.
Absolutely, yeah. And we have almost 500 approved vendors that are listed on our website that families can look at and choose depending on where they live and things like that. We have them organized by different counties in the state so they can see where the vendors are.
Yeah. So I'm curious, what got you into this?
Yeah, well, that's a great question. So I've been doing nonprofit work for 35 years. I started a career back in 1990 working for the Boy Scouts of America and did that for 16 years. I worked at the Museum of Natural History at the University of Utah for a few years. I worked at the Living Planet Aquarium for a few years, and all these been doing fundraising. Then I worked for the Alzheimer's Association of Utah for 8 years. And so I've been doing fundraising for a long time and been here with Children First Education Fund going on 3 years now. But the thing that's really gotten me, and what I love about this, is that my oldest son is deaf, and he's now 34 years old. And so he's not in public school and not able to use a scholarship like this. But my wife and I fought the public school system for the 12 plus years, including preschool. He was in there trying to make sure his needs were met and his
Man.
accommodations were needed, were being fulfilled. And had he had the opportunity to go to a private school that was designed to help meet his needs, or even be homeschooled, probably would have been a much better situation for him. And so I have a vested interest. I know what it's like for moms and dads out there who have kids with special needs, and want to make sure they get the best education that their child can get to meet the needs that they have specifically. 3 other kids, and they all are didn't have a special need, special education need, and so they were in public school and things were great. So I'm
Yeah.
not in opposition to public school at all. Know what this is all about. It's really helping kids with special needs get the education choice that they need to meet their needs.
Yeah. And I think to kind of help people understand a little bit, from your personal experience, what did you feel wasn't being met when your kid was going through school? What was that fight about?
Well, a lot of it is just, and 2 things, I guess. One is classroom size. And, so
Mm.
when you're in a public school, classroom size is difficult for teachers to focus on individual kids if they have a special education need. And so
Yeah.
that was the same. So as an example, when my son was in high school, he was in a trigonometry class, and the teacher spent all of the class time facing the chalkboard, writing on the board, and would never turn around so my son could read his lips. He had an interpreter with him, but it's hard to find an interpreter that's expert in trigonometry and can
Yeah.
help explain those concepts. And so that was, even though we went in and time again and talked to the teacher and said, hey, write on the board, then turn around and explain it to the class so my son can read your lips. He just didn't get that,
Yeah.
So that's an example of why it wasn't beneficial for him at the time to be in public school. And, and that's just one type. I mean, there are dozens of different types of disabilities that qualify for special education in school. And so the whole gamut is out there. I mean, we could talk to, 100 families and probably get 100 different stories of how
Yeah.
children with special needs aren't being served well in public school.
And I think that's a great story, and thank you for sharing that. What I like about it is it exemplifies, sometimes how just these little small changes can make such a big difference in education.
Absolutely.
As simple as, decreasing the class size to where, the teacher can face in turn the student who's, struggling with hearing or has no hearing. Just those little things that make a big difference. And, it's not bad on the teachers, because they're trying to, take care of all these other students, and it makes sense to where it's like, okay, if we can help them to get into those private areas, that's where they can focus on that, because that's their skill set.
And I knowing some of the legislators who are involved in creating this law, and as I've had conversations with them, that's really their purpose in behind this. Is that this is not designed to attack public school and say you're not doing a good job. Like I said, 95% of the kids with special needs in public school are getting their needs met very well. But
Mm-hmm.
that 5% that are on the fringes is really who we focus on and try to help give them some resources for their needs that aren't being met.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's amazing. So was the company created prior to you being involved in it, or is it something you helped develop?
So our board members were very involved in helping get the legislation passed, and when the legislation was passed, then they officially organized themselves as a 501c3 nonprofit organization, and the law requires that the state school boards select a nonprofit to administer the program, and so they opened it up for bidding. Our organization, put their hat in the ring, and we're fortunately selected to be the administrators of the program. And that was done about a year before I joined the organization. So I came on board about a year after that happened as the executive director, and
Okay.
started
That's
running.
awesome. Yeah, I'm amazed at how, simple of a process it is. I mean, really, it's just like, hey, here's what my tax liability is with the state. I donate to you, and you've got the system set up to where immediately you can go into action helping someone.
Absolutely.
Was there difficulty getting to where that could be so seamless?
No, I mean, the donation and the tax credit process is pretty simple. The tax commission has it set up. They basically assign a code to this program, and then when you claim the credit, that's the code you put on your tax form. So that part wasn't difficult, but the difficult part was really raising awareness. This has only been around for 4 years now, and so just raising the awareness and getting more people to understand that this is out there. In fact, it's because it's new. Sometimes the biggest question I get is, "This sounds too good to be true. Is this the real?" Right? And so I'm happy if anyone wants to. I mean, you can just simply go to the Utah State Legislature website and put in Carson Smith Carson Smith Opportunity Scholarship Program, and you'll find the law that outlines all of this. If you are having trouble sleeping, you can read the 30 pages of the law that talks program, but it's there. And also, I mean, the State Tax Commission has a specific, section and statute in their code as well that says here's how the tax credit can be used. And so it's, the legislature's done an awesome job about setting this all up so that it's as simple as possible for the donors.
Yeah. So the legislation is called Carson Smith.
Yeah, it's called.
Do you know the story?
Yeah.
Behind that?
So there was an individual named Carson Smith who was in elementary school, and that was sort of the genesis. His mom was raising this issue that his needs weren't being met in public school, and caught the ear of a legislator, and the legislator wrote a bill and was able to get it passed that helped create this program. And so it's been a wonderful program. It's served so many kids. We have, like I mentioned, almost 800 kids on the scholarship today. And that has just grown, incrementally each year. The first year that I came on board, we had 87 kids in the program. Then that increased to about 200 the following year. Last year, we had 350 kids. Now we've more than doubled it this year to 800 kids. And so that's a testament of the number of kids who really will thrive on this type of a program and who are out there wanting it. As well as we can only give away scholarships if we've raised enough money. And so that's a testament that donors are seeing this as a great benefit to them as well. And so we've increased donors as well every year to help increase, raise the funds.
Yeah. So how does the classification of the individual's disability work?
Yeah. So it's designed to meet the federal disability. It's called the Individuals with Disability in Education Act, or IDEA. And so that outlines 13 very specific disabilities that are eligible for this program. If a child is in public school and they have an IEP, that's an acronym for Individualized Education Plan, then they almost always will qualify for a scholarship, because that IEP is only given to a child who meets those 13 areas of disability. So if a child is outside of the public school to begin with and they want to apply for a scholarship, we have an alternative means called the multidisciplinary team evaluation that they can go through and get certified that they have a qualified disability that would allow them to apply.
Okay. So you're saying as part of your organization, there is an element that can help with the diagnosis to be able to allow individuals to get the needs.
We don't do the diagnosis ourselves, but we can help connect them to facilities and help them with that. And in most cases, families that have children with disabilities already have a medical professional that they're working with, and those are the individuals that they're qualified to sign off on that form to validate.
Yeah, but that's still great that you have that resource, because I mean, there's a number of individuals that I know that just because of living in poverty or different elements like that, they just never had the ability, and in some cases, people just didn't feel it was necessary to get the official diagnosis.
Right.
So it's great that if that's required for getting these grants, that you have that ability to help them with that.
And certainly, even if a child is outside of public school, the federal and state law requires a school district to evaluate the child. Sometimes it just takes time, and because they're not already in public school, they don't have the benefit of having the evaluation of a teacher that has seen the child in the classroom, and so that takes a little longer. You have to get some outside resources, but that's one option as well, just to go through the regular school district. But the state legislature allows us this other alternative means so that they don't have to go to public school if they don't want to do that, get their evaluation.
How does it feel for you, seeing it go from, you said you had 300 and now you're at 800 individuals? How's that feel?
It's so motivating for me. I love it. I mean, like I said, I've been doing nonprofit work for 35 years, and for the most of that time, it's been working with kids and helping them with education, whether it was in scouting or whether it was at the museum or the aquarium. I mean, it's all about educating kids and helping them to grow their minds and really help them have the resources they need to be, great adults and make a living and have a family. All those kind of things are so to help kids with disabilities, get that leg up and make a difference in their lives. I love hearing from our families, that are just so thrilled with our program and the impact that we're having in their lives of their children. It's great to wake up every morning knowing that, every dollar I raise is helping another kid. And so
Yeah.
I love sharing that story with donors and helping them engage. And anyone out there that's listening to this that might be interested in either donating, or if you know a family that has a child with special needs and they're interested in connecting with us, all the information can be found on our website. Again, that's cfe-fund.org. And there's information there about families. There's information there about donations. If you are a vendor that provides resources, educational resources to kids, you can go to that same website and register. There's no cost for vendors to register with us and get on our website. There is an application you need to fill out to do that. So there's just incredible all the way around for folks to get involved and engage with us and either help their own families or donate. One thing I did mention is that from a donor's perspective, if they would like to, one of the 82 schools that we have, they can actually designate their funds to one of those schools. And so they can't designate it to a certain child, but they can designate it to the school, and then we will take those funds and award scholarships for kids who are going to that school specifically and make that designation. And so that's another way that if they have a favorite place that they want to contribute their funds to, they can do that. The other thing I wanted to mention about the donations is that the state law allows donors to take the credit in the year they donate, or they can carry it back 1 year, or they can carry it forward up to 3 years. And so there's people out there who think, man, I would have loved to do this for my 2024 taxes. They can donate now and roll it back to last year's, because most people, if you're like me, haven't filed your 2024 taxes yet. You can figure out what your tax liability is, donate that amount to us, and then use that to offset your tax liability for last year.
Man, that's amazing. I love what you're trying to do, and more than what you're trying to do, what you guys have already accomplished. I mean, it's a great incentive, and it makes a lot of sense. And I think you guys have just done a wonderful job of making it a simple, easy process to be able to truly make a massive impact on people.
There's no limit to the amount of donation you can give us. We are limited as an organization to the number of tax credits we can give out in a year. For 2025, that limit is $5.94 million. I'm not sure how they came up with that number exactly, but that's the number of credits we can give out in a year. And so as long as you're not wanting to donate more than $5 million, then there's no, so like I said, we had one donor that gave $2 million last year. I could only dream that would be my state tax liability, right?
Yeah.
That was the company's tax liability, and they decided to make that donation. And so, but yeah, anything that people want to donate. The other thing is that we've had some donors that instead of donating cash to us, through a credit card or check, they have donated highly appreciated stock. And so it gives them an added bonus because they not only get the tax credit for the donation, but they can avoid paying the capital gains tax on those stocks that are appreciated. And so just gives them another way to do that. So that's an option. If that's something that people are interested in, they can reach out to me directly, and I can give the information about how to donate a stock if they'd like to do that.
That's awesome. Man, well, thank you for taking the time. It was great getting to know a little bit more about your story and what you've accomplished, and really the benefit that you provide, not only to individuals in the taxes, but really to the individuals who need this help so that they can become, as you said, active and thriving adults within the community.
Yeah, I love to
because
call
oftentimes
this is really the ultimate win-win-win. I mean, taxpayers win, kids win. Our organization is able to make a big difference. And, that's what I love about us is we're kind of the nexus of bringing all this together and making a difference. And so I love being part of that.
Yeah. And as you said before, it's just often those little changes can make such a big difference in these individuals' lives. And well, thank you so much. It was great getting to talk with you, Ronnie. And as stated, people can go to your website and be able to learn more and be able to do donations and see their money go immediately into action.
Awesome. Thank you so much,
Weston. Take care.
Okay.